Do you know what embarrassment is? Was I not born Nikosu doffing in time eternal as dark as night? Nikosu kicked open the door. This home, where one lived for 19 years, now stands empty. It is truly desolate. He stepped over the threshold. After swaying and stumbling a few steps forward, he turned back and closed the door. He didn't want to attract official attention. Scholars mustn't bring shame upon themselves. He walked from the outer courtyard to the inner courtyard, as if he had gone through a long lifetime. He could read at 3 years old and recite poems at 5. He was already well versed in classic books at the age of 10. At 14, he entered Yunlu Academy to pursue his studies. He is an 18-year-old Imperial Examination graduate. It is not excessive to say he is exceptionally gifted. His intelligence, his extensive knowledge, molded his proud character. He has always been proud in front of his family. He is promising. He is outstanding. He is the future pillar of the Su family. He, as a 7-foot-tall man, would rather die heroically than live in humiliation. Thinking of this, Nikosu emptied the wine jug in his hand with one gulp. He smashed it on the ground with force. He, under the influence of alcohol, ground the ink, picked up the brush, and wrote down the most peak farewell poem of his life. He lived as a carefree person. He died as a rebellious ghost. Nikosu chuckled 3 times. He took out the prepared hemp rope and hung it on the ginkgo tree in the courtyard. Alas, the heavens do not act fairly. If the heavens have not given birth to me, Nikosu doffing, it is as if eternal night has fallen. Under the ginkgo tree stands the scholar on the chair. He suddenly took off his hairpin and threw it away. He shook his head vigorously. With disheveled hair, he was wild and unruly. He is carefree and unrestrained. He put his head into the noose. So he saw his family with stiff expressions and vacant eyes. I, Nikosu, live a carefree life, loving freedom. I, Nikosu, talented and extraordinary, am destined for greatness. If heaven had not given birth to me, Nikosu, the universe would be as dark as a long night. Nikosu looked at the family members, who returned unexpectedly. He felt that he was still a step too late to die. Nikosu at this moment. His soul has already died. Cultivation categories in this world are varied. Besides the soldier category, which is regarded as the most unfortunate, there are also sorcerers, Confucianists, Buddhists, Taoists, shamans, and witches. 600 years ago, the Defying kingdom was established. The first chief of the Observatory Bureau divided the various categories, with Aaron Su being a rank 9 spirit forging level in the soldier category. His second uncle is at the peak of rank 8 chief forging level, and rank 7 official soul forging level. As for Aaron Su's own cultivation level beyond that, it is unknown. On the contrary, Aaron Su from the sorcerer category of the Observatory Bureau knows quite a lot. This is because the Observatory Bureau is exclusive to the Defying dynasty's cultivation categories, and is exceptionally high profile. Among them, the inventiveness and creativity of rank 6 alchemists are integrated into thousands of households. He does not know what rank comes after that. As for the rest of the categories, Aaron Su only knows the name. He was reborn, but only understands a rare glimpse of this world. But we can't blame the original owner of this body for only knowing so little, since they grew up in the capital city. However, Aaron Su is puzzled about why there is no memory of the original owner of this body's death or loss of consciousness. As for himself, after resigning from the police station, he chose to start a business and became a diligent office worker. His future life should be able to afford a mortgage, pay for a dowry, get married, and have children. But he never expected that while celebrating at the bar with a few friends, he suffered from alcohol poisoning. He finally obtained the ticket to the middle class, only to be sent back to the feudal society immediately. There's still $600,000 in the bank account as a down payment for a house. The most tragic thing in the world is when a person is gone. Forget it. Let's just consider it as an inheritance for his parents. But at this moment, He suddenly remembered that he forgot to clear his Chrome browser history. What does it feel like to be called the eldest son? A girl in a green dress entered through the gate of the courtyard. The personal maidservant called Jade Maiden of Aunt. Eldest son master calls you over for dinner. Jade Maiden's eyes are bright with joy. She was sold to serve the Su family when she was 10. After the Su family encountered misfortune, the servants were dispersed. She was worried about her future livelihood. Unexpectedly, in just 5 days, the Su family turned their fortunes around. Aaron Su is extremely awkward. Don't call me the eldest son, Jade Maiden wondered. But eldest son is just eldest son. Aaron Su helplessly. Forget it. The two of them left the courtyard side by side and entered Su family house. Jade Maiden hesitated for a moment and said, "Just now, Master and Madam were arguing." "What's going on?" Aaron Su asked. It seems that Madam must know how the tax silver case was switched. As for who did it, Master couldn't answer. They started arguing back and forth. Jade Maiden whispered, "Eldest son probably knows." Aaron Su was lost in thought. On the way back from Capital Commandery, he had told his second uncle that the tax silver was not robbed but switched, and didn't say anything at the time. It turns out she had been keeping it in her heart all along. Aaron Su had just stepped over the threshold when he heard crying. Lila Su, who was as small as a bean, raised her 2 little arms behind her, arched her body forward, raised her head, and sent a piercing sound wave attack towards her mother. Second uncle calmly sipped his wine. Lily Su ate with her head down. Nico Su hadn't recovered yet, and held her forehead with her hand, looking like she had a headache. When Jade Maiden approached, she immediately said, "Take them away! Take them away!" Aaron Su glanced at his younger cousin girl, who was crying uncontrollably, and asked with a kind expression, "What's wrong?" Lila Su accused. "Mom lied. She said if we could go home, she would take me to Restaurant Moon." Dad just mentioned Restaurant Moon. Restaurant Moon is a top-tier dining restaurant in Capital City that caters exclusively to high-ranking officials and dignitaries. They do not accommodate commoners or wealthy merchants. She is a silly child who can't even remember the names of her siblings. The main reason she remembers Restaurant Moon is that she had been there once before. It can be seen that this child is not stupid. She simply has talents that are misplaced. "Master Su, you can do it. You know how to lead trouble away to the east. Even your daughter has been treated as a tool." Lila Su is the aunt's lifeline. It was just a joke back then. It has come to this. Aunt sighed. Children are all liars. Aunt is unreliable. Aaron Su instinctively scolded her. And at this moment, a little hand tugged on Aaron Su's clothes. "Big brother, take me with you." Lila Su grabbed onto his pants and started climbing up. What kind of place is Restaurant Moon? The average cost per person is 1 tael of silver. Aaron Su lifted Lila Su up to Jade Maiden. Lila Su cried out as she was carried down, and kicked her husband. She discreetly pointed with the corner of her mouth at Aaron Su and Zane Su, feeling a bit embarrassed. He glanced at his son, who had always been curious. Unfortunately, Nico Su has died. The dead cannot speak, only eat. The food tastes average. It's mainly because there's no broth. After all, everyone just got home. Aaron Su eats as if chewing wax. He glared at the beautiful girl without good temper. "Lily, why do you always peek at your brother?" The little girl's face instantly turned red. "I just want to know. How did Big Brother solve the case from the document file? There is no perfect crime in the world, except for coincidences. Any case that is man-made can be traced back," said Aaron Su. Nico Su couldn't help but straighten his back and listen attentively. "First, I went through the journey of transporting tax silver. The weight of silver noticed the problem with tax silver." Aaron Su explained his reasoning process once. The more Nico Su listened, the brighter his eyes became. It was like receiving enlightenment from a teacher on a private cushion. His hand, tightly clenched into a fist, lay on the desk. The 16-year-old pretty younger sister lowered her head, concealing the admiration in her eyes. Zane Su slammed the table excitedly and cursed in slang. So that's how it is. I can't believe I didn't notice. But Aunt ruthlessly dissed her own husband. You fool! You can't even weigh things properly. He's simply a lousy teammate. Zane Su is a great example. Aaron Su asked if they wore hand protection when counting the silver. Zane Su recalled for a moment. It seems like they did. How did you know that? Aaron Su looked at him resentfully. Why didn't it mention in the testimony? Zane Su shrugged indifferently. It's just a trivial matter. Nothing worth mentioning. Speaking of which, Zane Su grumbled, blaming someone with the surname Liu for handing me a pot of osmanthus honey back then. You also know about my second uncle's drinking capacity. It's beyond measure. So, I drank a bit greedily, and didn't pay much attention to other things. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Aaron Su is almost driven crazy by these pig teammates. If this message is on the document file, he could analyze the truth more quickly on his own. Why bother wasting so many brain cells? And at this moment, Nico Su, who was listening on the side, pointed out incisively that it seemed likely that the person referred to as someone with the surname Liu by Dad is most likely the one framing Dad. Zane Su suddenly realized this. But suddenly, he looked at the people in the house, remembered a deeply carved past. It's all my fault for being confused. Almost caused harm to the whole family. Zane Su's voice was full of guilt. Aaron. Back then, I fought back-to-back with your father in the Battle of Mountains and Seas. We promised to survive together. Rise up, Huang Tingda. I survived. Your father, however, died in battle. At that time, I thought, in order to live a better life, I have to change my way of living. I can't be a cannon fodder anymore. So I sent Nico to study. Choosing to have you practice martial arts was actually a selfish decision. Ed rolled her eyes. Yeah. My heart is all with my nephew. Aaron Su instinctively said. The meaning is understood. Second son is not a blood relative. And is angry and slams the table. You little rascal. What are your intentions in saying such things? Zane Su's scalp is numb. Enough. I barely managed to save my life. Why do I have to listen to you guys arguing? Everyone bowed their heads to eat. When it comes to that battle of mountains and seas, Aaron Su has some impression. The world is vast and boundless. The Defying dynasty is dominant in the Central Plains, claiming to be the orthodox ruler of the world. Defying builds its country with martial arts and governs with Confucianism. At the peak of its power, Defying had delegations from various countries coming to pay respects. Up to now, its national prosperity has lasted for 600 years. 20 years ago, Defying allied with various Western regions countries to confront the barbarian tribes from the north and southern barbarians from the southwest at Shanhai Pass Fortress. The total number of troops involved from all sides reached 1 million. From the start of the war to the end, it only took half a year. The Battle of Mountains and Seas is considered one of the most brutal wars in history. It is known as the Battle of Mountains and Seas. Aaron Su's father died in that war. And at this moment, Lila Su, who ran back because of hunger. She said a sentence that almost made Aunt drop dead on the spot. Mother, why do we have to live in a dark house? We can't eat enough every day. Everyone is speechless. Lila Su thought of the prison cell as a dark house. Zane Su said guiltily, It's Dad who did something wrong. Lila Su nodded and said, Yesterday, I woke up hungry. I caught a bug and then gestured to show what it looked like. Aunt was heartbroken. Did you eat it? But Lila Su continued, Later, I heard my mother's stomach growling. Then I stuffed food into my mother's mouth. She ate really quickly. At this moment, Aunt's mind kept echoing this sentence. Stuffed food into my mother's mouth. She ate really quickly. and spray directly for quite a distance. Then all that was left was the sound of Lila Su being beaten. A modern chemical like sodium metal. How can it drive ancient people crazy? In Defying capital city, the tallest building, Observatory Tower, serves as the office location for the Observatory Bureau. The yellow skirt girl climbed lightly. When passing the 7th floor, she heard a noisy commotion coming from the alchemist's room. The alchemists in white robes were arguing with flushed faces. Why did it fail again? The steps are so simple. I've said it before. It must be the wrong amount of salt. I think it's the water. Is it the fire? Just now I saw senior disciple Wade igniting the salt. It's too difficult. The spell to turn salt into silver is too difficult. I don't know how to ignite the salt. The yellow skirt girl named Camila twitched her mouth. This group of people is still refining fake silver. Tax silver case cracked. Your Imperial Majesty believes that fake silver has great power, quite extraordinary. Orders were given to the Observatory Bureau to continue refining fake silver. So the alchemists of the Observatory Bureau began their busy work. They have been working non-stop since 2 days ago until now. They have not succeeded yet. And at this moment, someone noticed that Camila Chu, who was passing by, felt a chill in her heart halfway. Then Camila Chu was carried into the refining room. Camila Junior Disciple, come and help me take a look. Is there a problem with the procedure? You are the only one who has successfully refined fake silver. Camila Chu looked at the materials on the table. She felt really tired in her heart. The process of refining by the senior disciples was flawless. She had also refined fake silver in the same way when she was at the Su family house. But afterwards, she refined it again privately. However, she failed. Senior disciples, don't be anxious. This is the profound and obscure alchemist science passed down from ancient times. It's not something you can master just by learning once. You need to teach in a simple and clear manner in order to build a strong foundation. I will teach all senior disciples a simple saying. I hope senior disciples will remember it. A group of alchemists eagerly adopt a listening posture. Camila Chu infuses her energy into her dantian. She blurted out all the various chemical terms Aaron had mentioned to her at once. The alchemists were bewildered by what they heard. What is this incantation? I understand each word, but I'm confused when they are put together. Camila Chu chuckled awkwardly twice. She thought to herself, who knows what this thing is? Anyway, it's something that guy Aaron Su said. A White Cloth senior disciple sighed. What a talent. The person who wrote this rhyme is truly a talent in alchemist science. Camila Junior Disciple, who taught you this rhyme? Camila Chu thought to herself. Good question. That person is named Aaron Su, a rank 7 official of the Imperial Sword Unit, and nephew of Green Robe Zane Su. You can find him if you need to. Soldier Whitecloth seems unhappy. Joke. As talented individuals from the Observatory Bureau, refining fake silver and seeking help from outsiders seem unnecessary. It would be a joke if news of a soldier being involved spread. According to different cultivation categories, several interesting chains of disdain have formed. Taoism looks down on the Buddhist sect, which in turn despises Taoism. Sorcerers look down on shamans, while witches look down on sorcerers. Then, Taoism, Buddha, sorcerer, shaman, and witch. They all look down on soldiers. As for the Confucianists, I'm sorry. Forgive my bluntness. Everyone present here is garbage. Unfortunately, it's a pity. Modern Confucianism has declined. The alchemists continued to pester Camila Chu. She forcibly squeezed her way out of the group of white cloth senior disciples. She continued to climb the steps. In fact, she didn't understand either. She just wanted to quickly leave this place of controversy. At the top of the observatory tower. It's not a normal eave, but an octagonal platform. In line with the 8 trigrams, it is called the 8 trigrams platform. The edge of the 8 trigrams platform. An old man in a white cloth is lying on the table. He holds a wine glass in one hand and supports his head with the other hand. He seems to be drunk, but not really drunk, gazing at the capital city below. The yellow skirt girl is observant and did not interrupt. The Supreme Master doesn't usually work on official matters, preferring to sit on the 8 trigrams platform, drinking and enjoying the scenery. This Aaron Su doesn't go to brothels. He also has a gloomy face sometimes. Inside the government office in Changle County, a mysterious figure. He scared everyone as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Someone pointed at Aaron Su and tremblingly asked, "Are you a human or a ghost?" Daniel Lee noticed the shadow cast on the ground by Aaron Su. He felt a slight sense of relief. He said calmly, "What nonsense are you talking in the courtroom? Do ghosts have shadows?" Aaron Su thought for a moment and then responded, "I might be a zombie, you know." Upon hearing this, Daniel Lee's eyes rolled back, and he almost fainted. Aaron Su quickly apologized. "Just kidding. Hello, Daniel and colleagues. I've been released from prison." Daniel Lee asked, "What happened?" Aaron Su immediately repeated the matter again. The crowd suddenly understood. Aaron Su took out the voucher given by the Capital Commandery Government Office. Daniel Lee took it and said, "End of the day. Let's all disband." Several familiar law enforcers immediately gathered around. They congratulated and offered their good wishes. "You will have good fortune after surviving a great disaster. You should treat everyone to a meal. I heard that the brothel on Lin Shui Street has recruited a new batch of workers. Aaron will join us tonight. Aaron Su is so shameless. He can treat us to a drink, but I have to pay for the women he sleeps with. Outrageous." Aaron Su just tried to make excuses by saying he has no money. Suddenly, he stepped on a hard lump on the ground. He looked down and, surprisingly, it was a fragment of silver. And at that moment, Daniel Lee came back panting heavily. After catching his breath a bit, he said, "Magistrate Master Wong County wants us to go to the inner hall." Wong thought to himself, "Bad luck." However, he still followed Daniel Lee. Aaron Su took the opportunity to quickly pick up the silver pieces. Aaron Su asked with confusion, "Government officer leader's face doesn't look good. What happened?" The government officer sighed. "You've been in prison for a few days, and there was a murder case on Street K. A wealthy merchant has died. County Magistrate Master is furious. He scolds law enforcer Wong every day." Aaron Su is puzzled. Is it really necessary for County Magistrate Master to be furious just because a merchant died? The government officer said that the merchant had a connection with a lord from the Imperial Censor. It seems like they exerted pressure. Besides, this year is the year of the metal rat. Aaron Su realized that it is the Imperial Examination in the capital. The Imperial Examination in the capital is the assessment system for Defying government officers. It is conducted once every 3 years. Government officers who fail the examination will be demoted or even dismissed from their positions. It's about one's future prospects. Now it's easier to understand. The other party also has a relationship with the Imperial Censor. If he gets impeached, basically it can be considered the end of his future. And at this moment, the door was kicked open by someone. Then law enforcer Wong could be seen grumbling. "The person is dead, and the thief has fled. Where can we find them?" The nearby government officer hurriedly went up to comfort, but only saw law enforcer Wong sighing repeatedly. "It's really unlucky today. Not only did I get scolded, but also lost 1 chin silver." Upon hearing this, Aaron Su sneaked to the side and chuckled. "So, it was you who lost the money." But at this moment, the government officer leaned forward and softly said, "Leader, how about taking a break?" Although the voice was low, Aaron Su still heard it clearly. Taking a break means finding a scapegoat. Law enforcer Wong thought this was not a bad idea. So he ordered, "Go to the slums in City West now. Pick a few old troublemakers who often engage in criminal activities. They should be older." But at this moment, Aaron Su grabbed the shoulder of the government officer. He said while giving a toss backwards, Can't let the murderer off lightly. The others, seeing this, quickly approached and held onto Aaron Sue, saying, Aaron, I know your family just encountered a major disaster. It's understandable that you might be sensitive to these matters. But the leader is being scolded by the country master every day. It's unavoidable. But Aaron Sue completely ignored them. Law Enforcer Wong suddenly slammed the table and stood up. He stared at Aaron and said, Then you tell me how to investigate. Aaron Sue suddenly shook off the hand grabbing his shoulder. He struck a very handsome pose and said, Give me the document file. Aaron Sue took the document file. He then began his reasoning. The deceased is Richard Zhang, 51 years old this year. He lived on Street K and was wealthy. His first wife passed away. He remarried a married woman who is 20 years younger than him. Richard Zhang had a son from his late wife, Ryan Zhang, who has no children of his own. There is a 20-year age gap between him and his second wife. Aaron Sue complained silently in his heart. This is an example of an old ox eating young grass. 4 days ago, Richard Zhang went to the countryside to collect rent. He rushed back home around 3 a.m. His sleeping wife suddenly heard a scream. When she went out to check, Richard Zhang was found dead in the yard. His wife also saw a dark figure jumping over the wall and leaving. Aaron Sue asked, Did the night patrolling soldier ask about it? The government officer on the side said, There were no suspicious individuals in the vicinity that night. Capital City has 3 city walls. Although there are night patrol soldiers in the outer city, there is no curfew. The city gates remain open all night for all 12 hours. Merchants just need to make advanced preparations, and with proper credentials, they can move freely in and out. Aaron Sue asked again, How much silver was lost? The government officer was also speechless. Nothing was lost. The deceased had just collected rent. He collected tax silver, bronze coins, and some grain. How could a thief escape with a large box of silver coins after committing murder? Aaron Sue immediately realized that something was wrong. If I were a thief and had left traces, I would definitely choose to steal the next day, not today. Law Enforcer Wong took a sip of tea and said, So may I ask, who is the murderer according to Law Enforcer Sue? And where is the murderer? Aaron Sue hurriedly chuckled. Don't be so anxious. I saw it in the document file. Is there a footprint left on the outer wall of Zhang's house? You deduce from this. The thief escaped by climbing over the wall. What the little woman said was true. Law Enforcer Wong still maintains an indifferent attitude. What's the problem with that? Aaron Sue asks why footprints were left behind. Law Enforcer Wong is a little impatient. Because there is a flower bed by the wall. Thieves have to pass by when climbing over the wall. So there will be footprints on the outer wall. So why are there no footprints entering the yard on the document file? Law Enforcer Wong was stunned. The government officer beside him stepped forward to explain. It's possible that the thief noticed this detail when entering, which is why there were no traces left. However, in their haste to escape after the murder, they left footprints in a rush. Aaron Sue closed his eyes. This is the first suspicious point. If the thief could leap over the garden wall from the outside without leaving footprints, demonstrating such agility. So when he escaped, there was no need for him to step on the wall for leverage at all. Secondly, why was the victim killed by a blunt weapon striking the back of the head? The perpetrator is engaging in such nefarious activities. Wouldn't it be more efficient to use a knife or sword to kill someone? Law Enforcer Wong stands up in anger. The blunt instrument struck the back of the head. 1 blow, 1 kill. It was indeed a premeditated murder. But he didn't understand why it was done with a blunt instrument instead of a sharp one. Aaron Sue's words at this point woke him up. Unless the murderer didn't have a handy weapon at that time. The last point, which is also something I am particularly concerned about. When the deceased's family brought him to the county government office for questioning, Richard's second queen fainted suddenly due to kneeling for a long time. After being diagnosed by the doctor, it was discovered that she was pregnant. The government officers on the side heard this and immediately sighed in succession, feeling deep sympathy and sorrow. Aaron Sue is a little annoyed. Can you please stop interrupting? Aaron Sue coughed twice to interrupt them. Richard's second princess was 20 years younger than the deceased. She has been married to the deceased for nearly 10 years. Why did she suddenly get pregnant at this time? Law Enforcer Wong was shocked at the words. Is there another explanation behind this? Aaron Sue continued. Perhaps the child was not the deceased's at all. Law Enforcer Wong's breathing suddenly became heavier. Aaron, explain more clearly. Aaron Sue took a sip of tea to moisten his throat. He said maybe this is not a burglary case, but a case of adultery and murder. Richard's second queen cheated on her husband with another man. The lover is either a man from outside or the deceased's son. The two of them took advantage of the deceased being out collecting rent to have a secret affair. Who would have expected the deceased to return early and catch them in the act? Both sides got into a conflict. So the adulterer, in a fit of anger, grabbed a vase or some other blunt object and killed the deceased. Richard's second consort and the adulterer hastily cleaned up the scene and dragged the deceased to the courtyard. They disguised themselves as thieves to break into the house for theft. Since the adulterer was planning to have a secret rendezvous, he must have scouted the location in advance. He had figured out the routine of the night patrols, so he managed to avoid being seen by the soldiers of the Imperial Blade Guard. If the thief is truly after wealth, he would never act on that particular night. Instead, he would wait for the deceased to exchange the rent money for silver notes, which he could easily slip into his pocket and walk away with. The excuse given by Richard's second queen happened to be the same timing when the rent was borrowed. She is steering your thoughts towards seeking wealth. The law enforcers in the room were stunned. Can the culprit be determined just by looking at the document file? Aaron is not joking around. Don't talk nonsense. Law Enforcer Wong is still puzzled. Why do you think the adulterer could be the son of the deceased?